topic number 1 from the brief statement of the doctrinal position of the Missouri Synod is of Scripture. And the second topic is of God. Now, if you go to the Augsburg Confession, the first article is of God. It never talks about of Scripture. Why? Well, because it wasn't an issue. Like, everyone believed the Scripture was the Scripture. You have in the water, in post-1880s German-influenced scholasticism of any type of theology, a questioning of Scripture.
Okay.
Now, interesting that they put that first, so that rather than confess of God and then of Scripture, they confess of Scripture and of God, right? And I think the idea is that, well, Scripture is the source of your knowledge of God. It's true.
Now,
but who's the source of Scripture?
What philosophical... so you said earlier that Plato was influencing the
Platonic view of sex,
behind the Ever-Virgin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what mindset is influencing the mind of this?
Yeah, secularism, that miracles don't exist.
Okay.
That God does not involve himself in history, aside from natural causes. Right? That Daniel's diet isn't a miracle. That the flood didn't happen. That the watchmaker designed us and let us run and now doesn't involve himself. And that is kind of pre-secularism. It's deism a little bit, but it's pre-secularism. God is not actively involved in reality. And, prayers aren't answered is one way of even looking at that.
Okay. It just made me think about reading about the Israelites in the Old Testament and how they start to, they're taking over different different tribes of people, and if they allow for even just a little bit of what that group of people was doing to remain, they get off course. And over time, it just kind of snowballs into a huge thing.
Yep.
And
so it is a matter of the history of philosophy. It is Hegel and Kant and the German philosophers of the 1800s that are commenting on Plato, Aristotle, and others, Aquinas, who are studying epistemology, how we know what we know, and trying to come up with an infallible system of knowing what we know, eventually without it being because it's revealed in Scripture, because they're not atheists yet, but they kind of are. They're practically atheists.
They're definitely leaning in that direction.
They're practically, they practice atheism, even if they don't believe atheism. And frankly, this is the way most Americans are, including most Christians in America, including me. I live as if God's not here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't walk around like thinking God's behind the bush or anything like that. So we live as if there are no spirits out there. And that's what this is from. And where does it go? It attacks the font of knowledge, which is the Holy Scriptures. So
and what happened to these people that made them so willing to divorce themselves from the spiritual
Christianity
side of
was very
creation?
successful. Everything was going great. The brotherhood of man and the unity of mankind and the Enlightenment was going to overcome.
Like a Tower of Babel.
Oh, very much. It's pride and success go into our heads. Okay. Absolutely. Never the idea that churches could be closing on every corner. Like, this is not even possible. Like, we're always going to be what we are. It was a hubris and a blindness that is extreme.